go ahead. Let's get the first guest in here. We got Hebrew of Israel. Hebrew of Israel. Shalom, shalom, and say what's up to the people.
Shalom, you guys. Vocab Malone and Gabir. Did I say that right?
Gabar.
Gabar. And
Yes,
Vocab
sir. Yes,
Malone.
sir. All right. Hebrew of Israel. Are you ready, man? Are you ready?
Yes, sir. I am ready.
All right. So yes, sir. So as you heard the ding before, whenever your 8 minutes is up, that's when you'll hear that time, and then I will chime in and let you know when you have 2 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
All right. 8 minutes, and your time starts as soon as I drop out.
All right. So I have basically 2 questions for you, Vocab Malone, and 1 statement. So my first question is, are you aware of any Israelite channels on YouTube that teach DNA, such as, creating a model for the biblical table of nations by using Y-DNA haplogroups and languages?
I've got sent some links about some of those. So I know there's, I think, at least 4 that I'm somewhat aware of, including, I think, one guy who was a kind of an extensive blog, but I don't know the names off the top of my head. Those aren't the main types of things that I deal with, but it's interesting for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm an Israelite that teaches DNA, and me and a group that I'm a part of called YAPGANG, and YAP is basically the Y chromosome haplogroup DE. And in our model, we see haplogroup E as representing Shem, the biblical Shem. And because of this, we believe that, the Israelites will be from the haplogroup E subclades. And with haplogroups being passed down from father to son, anybody can look like anything and have the same haplogroup. So in our group, we don't phenotype. Like, we recognize Ashkenazi Jews, Sephardi Jews, Mizrahi Jews, Yemeni Jews, basically Jews all over the world as being actual, Israelites based on the haplogroup E marker. And we don't really use things like Deuteronomy 28 or, like I said, Lamentations, meaning black unto the ground, stuff like that. We don't use that type of scripture. But yeah, so I just wanted to lay that out when it comes to me as an Israelite and some other Israelites out here, again, Yap Gang, that teach haplogroup E and study the genetic markers of.
You're affiliated with Genesis 49ers, right?
Yes, sir, I am. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've talked to him and seen some of his stuff, and I know there's a video that is I've seen on multiple channels. The white Hebrew Israelites torched by Yap Gang, right? Is that it?
Yeah, that was us actually going up against the British Israelism, which was kind of interesting.
Oh wow, the Anglo-Israelite. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and I just wanted to know, if you was aware of groups like us talking about it, because we also have other like Jewish people part of our group, like the Yemenite Jew and the Lithuanian Jew and stuff like that, people like that. So,
do you have explanations of how you came to the conclusion that E represents Japheth?
Shem.
I'm sorry. I apologize for that. Yes.
Oh, that's all good. So what I do is use language. So when it comes to the Afroasiatic languages, particularly Proto-Afroasiatic and Proto-Semitic, I've read various papers that basically illustrate that the Proto-Semites, the first Semites, the earliest Semitic population would have had haplogroup E. If you look into the Bayesian phylogenetic analysis of Semitic languages, which deals with the earliest formation of Semites, either they would have came from Africa or they would have originated indigenous in the Levant. And so in that time period, there would have been high markers of E. And there's actual papers that do say that pre-Proto-Semites or Proto-Semites would have carried E markers. So that's why I posit that the Israelites would descend from those populations that have haplogroup E.
And you believe that we can know who their descendants are?
Yes, and I kind of use the modern Jewish population to a certain extent to mark that, because 20% of Ashkenazi Jews have E and like 30% of Sephardi have E. So it's kind of interesting.
So what do you think the main significance, let's say an Ashkenazi or Sephardic has E, what does that mean for their their spirituality, their relationship with God? What do you think is the application of that?
Oh, I do this mostly for like the understanding of the ancient world. Like I have a minor in history, so when it comes to like trying to figure out the ancient Near East, that's kind of why I do this. Also, genetically as well, why I do this because I just like the ancient world. So I just like I just consider myself like Indiana Jones, I guess. But in terms of spirituality, of course, Yeshua or Jesus Christ. Obviously, he's more important. He's who you go through to be saved. But I do this side stuff, the history and the genetics for the fun of it, like connecting people and stuff.
So what are do you have any what are some of maybe the best papers or books that you think let's say we're going to get started looking at this, a person could read to understand the earliest Semites and their point of origin and their haplogroups? What are some of the maybe names or authors, something to refer to maybe?
Yeah, so I will look into a linguist professor by the name of Christopher Ehret. I will look into Edward Lemsky. I would look into the recent paper dealing with Semitic languages called the Bayesian Phylogenetic Analysis. Hold on, let me look up the exact title. It is the Bayesian Phylogenetic Analysis of Semitic Languages Identifies an Early Bronze Age Origin in the Levant. There's so many other people. Who else? S.O.Y. Kita. Who else? There's I might get this guy's name mixed up wrong.
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Tolby. Now I have actually another question before.
Sorry about that. Go ahead. Yeah.
So the last question I have is so I said all of that to say earlier, and do you know Abu, by the way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So he said in the past that out of haplogroup E and haplogroup J, he sees really good evidence for haplogroup E being Semitic and Israelite, stuff like that. So I ask you, out of haplogroup E versus J, which one do you see best as being Shem or Semitic or Israelite, etc.?
With any kind of definitive certainty, I don't think we can make some kind of definitive statement on that. I think we can say there's ones that are more likely and less likely, and we can do what are called population studies. So, J is not just something that only those who identify in some way as modern day Jews or Hebrews have. It's heavily present in what are sometimes referred to as Arab populations, for example, which would make sense if there's some kind of relation there. And then, I think the potential blood descendants of Aaron is also, Cohen modal type. I think that's an interesting area of study too. But even though I think it's interesting, I haven't got into it as deep as some of the other stuff, primarily because the relationship to theology, I don't think is as clear with that as some of the other issues. And I do think there's some real ambiguity, so I know people make arguments, but a lot of times it's incredibly circumstantial, especially when they're trying to tie in linguistics to genetics. I think there could be some troubling aspects to that methodology. So, I'd love to look at more of what you have, but,
All right. The Hebrew of Israel, that is your time. Definitely appreciate you coming on through and asking vocab the questions. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next person. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We'll go ahead and we'll come back to the Hebrew of Israel. We'll give him another 8 minutes. Then we got the brick slinger backstage after him. So we'll just go ahead and move on. And then if no one else, if Yehukanan doesn't come back in or anybody else, we'll get ready to close it out. All right, so let's get the Hebrew of Israel back in. The Hebrew of Israel, welcome back. Let's get another 8 minute set for you. Let's see here. And your time will start now.
All right, shalom. I just want to say thank you for talking to me, taking the time to talk to me, by the way, and giving me your answers and stuff.
Yes, sir.
And my bad. You go ahead.
No, I just said yes, sir. I wasn't trying to cut in.
Oh, okay. And I just wanted to clarify that, I'm doing this to prove the Bible with science, much like I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Kent Ham and Kent Hovind, but that's more on the young creation side of things.
Mm-hmm.
This is more on a genetic side of things, Table of Nations, genetic Table of Nations model. But yeah, I actually would like to have you on my show one day to talk about genetics and whatnot, Table of Nations, showing everybody on the world today descending from Noah from a biblical standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, well, of course, I agree with you. Everybody alive today had to have descended from the line of Noah.
Mm-hmm.
He's sort of a second Adam in that way. I'm not saying the Bible calls him that, but I'm saying, that's a reality. Noah and his 3 sons, and of course the wives. Yeah, that's true. Rob, what is the last name? Now I'm forgetting his name, but he works for CMI, Creation Ministries International. Dr. Rob, and I'm having trouble remembering, he has a great talk on Noah and the daughters of Eve, and gets into DNA that I think is a really helpful lecture. It's on YouTube, I believe, but I also have the DNA, or at least clips are on YouTube. But that's really, it might be Rob Carver, but don't quote me on that. I know it's Dr. Rob something, but yeah, there's some good stuff there.
Are you familiar with Dr. Nathaniel Jansen from Answers in Genesis?
He's an AIG guy that I know less than some of the others, but I've seen his name on the website and in their literature.
He has a very interesting model that I like. So basically with his models that he sees with the haplogroups that there could be 3 ancestral nodes, and that these 3 nodes could represent Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and all of humanity descending from those 3 ancestral nodes, rather than the phylogenetic tree, the secular phylogenetic tree of evolution. Either way, whether it's the phylogenetic tree or the 3 nodes, I think the 3 nodes are very interesting to look into.
Well, I mean, it does sound interesting. I just got, now I haven't been able to explore it much, Answers.tv. They started a streaming service, and I just got it last Monday, last Monday. And so I want to check out some of the stuff on there. They have some fascinating stuff on there. But yeah, I mean, I like, a lot of people don't like AIG. I do like AIG. I've been to the Ark Museum and the Creation Museum, and I like a lot of the stuff they do. So, I mean, I'd love to learn more about whatever it is you're saying. I know he has a book, Traced. I still need to get that though.
Yeah, it recently came out. He published a book. Yeah.
Yeah, Human DNA's Big Surprise, but I have not got it. But I don't even know if it's shipping yet. But I know it's like brand new. But anyways, yeah, I mean,
digital version.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that stuff's interesting. It seems like if you are saying in public that you believe some of the Ashkenazi and Sephardic are actually descended from Jacob, seems like you'd be getting a lot of pushback.
Oh, you do not believe the type of pushback I get.
Yeah, so
especially recently with certain Israelites. I probably shouldn't name the groups, but
yeah, it seems like you would be really receiving a lot of less than kind comments, because I don't think that's something that a lot of Hebrew Israelites would really be.
Oh, I have, and I've been called, like folks have said, my mom's Ashkenazi. People have called folks in my group mamzers, and oh, you're actually white and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I could see that being the case. Somebody's saying stuff like that, because once you say that you think there are Ashkenazi and to a lesser extent Sephardic who might actually have like actual Semitic from Jacob DNA, I don't think that'd be a very popular position if you're including them.
Yeah, because basically what I see is that I think that both groups could be true, and that both groups could share an ancient ancestor despite how we look. I kind of want to see a connection between both African Americans that claim to be Israel. Of course, I don't believe every single African American is, but I believe some of us are, and I do think that there is a ancient genetic connection between the two peoples.
What do you think of I know that they don't like the term, so I'll only say it once. But Falasha.
Oh, Beta Israel.
Yeah, what do you think of? What's your general stance on that?
Yeah, so I've read their basic story, them being descendants of the tribe of Dan, and that's pretty interesting. So yeah, I can see them as being Israelites. You know. I know they're haplogroup. They have a lot of A, but still, you know.
Yeah, I was wondering what you thought of it genetically and how that would work with some of your other models.
Well, here's how I kind of look at things. So when it came to the Israelites and the mixed multitude, when everybody was at Sinai, you technically could have all types of haplogroups in that point. And once everybody was given, the law, and you was put under that, was
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
When you was put under that coat of, I guess, multiple colors, or the Mosaic law, it didn't matter really what haplogroup you have. You technically could descend from an ancient, I guess you say, proto-Israelite population. So the A markers and the J markers and the E markers, you could have had those three haplogroups there since the Exodus would have took place possibly in the late Bronze Age, where you would have had E, J, and A in that location of Egypt/Levant region.
What do you think of the Limba and some of their DNA evidence?
Yeah, the Limba are very interesting as well. They're diverse, so they have haplogroup J, haplogroup T, haplogroup E, a couple of different E's, E-M2, E-M35. So with them being very diverse like that, it makes sense that they'll descend from Middle Eastern populations, Israelite populations.
The Igbo, that's a controversial one. What do you make of their some of their claims and haplogroups?
Yeah, so the Igbo are also interesting. They mainly have E1B1A, of course. But what's interesting about the Igbo is their autosomal DNAs, particularly their raw DNA data, what's deep in their ancestry. And what we do see is that there is an ancient Levantine component deep within their genes, specifically a Bronze Age Levantine component, as well as a Neolithic one. And so I think that, there's definitely something there coming from the Levant. No way you can just get these genes out of nowhere. And did you want to say something?
Well, it seems like, based on what you're saying, I could see someone like you disagreeing with a lot of the 12 tribes chart inclusion with some of the people on the 12 tribes chart.
Yeah, the 12 tribes chart makes no sense. I mean, Native Americans have haplogroup Q.
All right, the Hebrew of Israel, that is your time. That is your time. Definitely appreciate you coming back through, man. Let's go ahead and let's move on.